This is just some just good old Vatican hypocrisy at its finest. But this is just tying in on the current. This was going on like the last video I uploaded was of Greta Thunberg, the child propagandist that the Jesuits are using in their worldwide crusade to create a new green, quote, climate-friendly new economic order. And a lot of that agenda is shaming people to, quote, lower your carbon footprint. And it's very similar to the Al Gore propaganda that was coming out, like, I think that was like 10 years ago now. And actually, Al Gore like exposed himself, like while Al Gore was shaming people to have a lower carbon footprint, he was living in a massive mansion and taking private jet flights. And Pope Francis does that all the time. He was just flying on his private jet down in Africa a couple weeks ago, contributing greatly to the Earth's carbon footprint, using his own language. But if you're not aware, the Vatican has an apostolic nuncio to Canada. They have an apostolic nuncio stationed to 180 countries in the world. Avro Manhattan's book, Catholic Imperialism and World Freedom, has a good breakdown on like the significance of the nuncio. The nuncio is basically is a representative of the Vatican State Department. That's the analogy Avro Manhattan gives. I recommend you check out that little excerpt in Catholic Imperialism and World Freedom. But the Vatican nuncio to Canada, I believe it was initiated in 1959 was the mansion was sold to the Holy See in 1962, this Rockcliffe mansion, but nuncios have been appointed to Canada since 1959. And Vatican relations with Canada became officialized under Jesuit-trained Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, devout Catholic, Jesuit-trained Pierre Trudeau, educated at the same Jesuit school that current Prime Minister Justin Trudeau went to, the Collège de Jean-Brébeuf in southern Quebec. Kathy O'Brien actually claimed to have that video on my channel that Pierre Trudeau was a professed Jesuit. And Pierre Trudeau was also, while he initiated Vatican relations, he sold out Canada to international banks through the Bank of Canada with the Basel Committee. That was in 1974, whereby now the Bank of Canada borrows money from private foreign multinational banks rather than loaning money debt-free, interest-free to the Canadian government. So we can thank Pierre Trudeau's Jesuitical wisdom for this massive mansion that the Vatican nuncio now lives in, and the financial enslavement of Canada via debt. Canada is a very indebted country, especially after that Bank of Canada decision by Pierre Trudeau. But I'm just reading. So this is from a Diplomat magazine here, Diplomat Online, online.com mag. This looks like it's a Canadian Diplomat magazine, Diplomat International Canada. This is the mansion here on the right. So like, while Greta Thunberg and the Jesuit Pope Francis are shaming everyone for having a high carbon footprint, the Vatican nuncios are living in mansions across the world. And there's an article I have on my blog. I'll direct you to it later in this video. I linked the illustrations, but you should read the CNN article, The Lavish Lifestyle of American Bishops. It's rare that you see a well-done CNN article, but that CNN article had like 15 illustrations, and they show like 15 archbishops in the United States that live in massive mansions. Like Cardinal Dolan's mansion in New York City is worth over $30 million. For instance, well, I'm just reading from this. So when you drive at the end of Manor Avenue in Rockcliffe Park, you can't help but gawk. You have to pinch yourself to realize the white turreted gatehouse with the beautiful arch, stone crest, and antique lamp is not situated in France, nor is the elegant tree-lined driveway beyond, nor the looming stone mansion at the end. And you know what's interesting is that the official quote, leader of the opposition party in Canada, which is currently devout Catholic Andrew Scheer, like devout Catholic Andrew Scheer, the current like guy who's running against devout Catholic Jesuit-trained Justin Trudeau. So you can see how much of a shit show that is. And like the Archbishop in Ottawa, Terence Pendergast, SJ, is a Jesuit, and it's unusual to have an Archbishop of the capital city be a Jesuit. That's Terence Pendergast, SJ, and he says that Canada needs the message of Fatima more than ever today. That's probably why we have two papists, quote, running against each other in the sham elections. What you see here, In fact, this is Ottawa, and what you're looking at is the papal papal nunciature, or the manor house as it is named. The current papal nuncio to Canada is the quote Most Reverend Luigi Benassi. He's been stationed here since 2013. The historic house, settled on the cliff overlooking the Ottawa River and Gatineau Hills, has a fascinating history, and is surely one of the premier residences in the city. Oh, so like one of the premier residences in the city is where the Vatican nuncio lives. Look at that. We wonder why, like in Canada, like every single new like high school that's built, at least in the province of Ontario, is Catholic. Like every single new one. I'm going to show you like an example of that. The city of London, Ontario, the three newest high schools that have been built are all Catholic. All three of them. Here in Niagara Falls, the newest high school, St. Michael's High School, or Niagara Falls area, is Catholic. What a surprise. Okay, we see here, it was built in 1830. But look at some of the houses. So this is where the Vatican nuncio lives right here. Here's some photos on the house. Here's a photo of him here. Quote, His Excellency, Most Reverend Luigi Benassi. Here he is in the residence. It's $1 million, like multi-million dollar residence. Okay. You see, the house was purchased by the Holy See in 1962 and is still a place for special guests. And Pope John Paul II stayed there. He stayed in the third floor guest house suite while on an official tour to Canada in 1984. The stable entrance and the roof of the house are converted in French gray slate as a style similar to the French provincial architecture that is reflected in the small paned casement windows and tall chimneys of the house. So there's the main fireplace here. You see gold everywhere. Those chairs are better worth like $10,000 each. Here, the staircases in the home are paneled with blue and white hand-painted motifs of grapes and flowers. They are restored and repaired by artists whenever required. You see, the interior still embodies the opulence of its early days as well as the grandeur of Rome. It is an imposing place to see and savor. So like this guy's clearly like, as Greta Thunberg, like he's doing a great job in lowering his carbon footprint, right, and living like staying in line with Laudio Si. You can see that Laudio Si propaganda line is just for the sheep masses. The papists on top and the Jesuits obviously don't abide by their own encyclicals. You see, beauty abounds in the silver oak paneled dining room with its crimson and gold chairs and Venetian glass chandelier. And the formal reception room that runs the full length of the house. The Holy See purchased much of Wilson's furnishing and supplemented from the Vatican Museum. Each detail is magnificent and sumptuous, including the gilded furniture and reception room. The main entrance hallway's ceilings and resplendent reception room are painted in yellow and white in intricate moldings and panels. Artworks line the walls, among them frescoes of 4 Rome basilicas, including St. Peter's and Santa Maria Maggiore, if I'm pronouncing that right. Massive gold religious frame paintings cover the walls in the reception room. I wonder how much those paintings are worth. Millions, including Our Lady, the cat with the gold trimmings, Our Lady of the Cat by Renaissance artist Federico Barocci. Continue here. A small, more casual sunroom, a later addition, is located off the formal reception room and has a bright red furniture and a terrific view of the garden and the Ottawa River. An original paneled library is decorated with cream curtains and chair coverings and a cream-colored area rug. The stairwells in the house are paneled with blue and white hand-picked motifs of grapes and flowers, and we are told are repaired and restored whenever required. Although the house is an ambassadorial residence and office with more than 15 staffers, at least five of whom live in, it has a homey, peaceful dimension, the ambassador says. He sums it up simply. This is from Luigi Benassi, the current nuncio to Ottawa. Quote, there is a silence you can enjoy, he says, end quote. Lots of silence where you can probably rape little boys and girls in this house with police protection, I bet. A small Cocker Spaniel has lived at the house for a number of years, and there's a hammock tucked away in the garden. Most Reverend Benassi arrived last year, but has spent 5 months in Ottawa in 1999. But in this, quote, wonderful home, his favorite place, not surprisingly, is the lovely little chapel located in the basement in what used to be the Wilsons' billiard room. And actually, I covered this in the video on Conrad Black. Conrad Black is the Canadian-born British House of Lord media magnate from Hollinger International, who was just pardoned by Jesuit-trained Donald Trump, who was very close to Epstein himself. But Conrad Black was in Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book list, and Jeffrey Epstein was going to Conrad Black's mansion home in Toronto, Canada. And that's the same mansion home where Conrad Black was made a Knight of St. Gregory the Great and would have private mass with the Toronto archbishops and have like special parties together. So Epstein was going to the private chapel of Conrad Black, which is, just interesting. So, lots of, weird stuff goes on in these chapel rooms of these Catholic archbishops and nuncios and papal knights. You see here, the small chapel has stained glass windows and pictures of Canadian saints. He holds mass there every morning, and friends and guests are often invited to join him. So here's a quote looks like from Benassi. Quote, "This is an ambassadorial house and has lots of activities, but it is one of the best residences. It is very comfortable to breathe fresh air and connect to the city here," he says. Quote, "It is the best nunciature in the world." End quote. The nunciature might not be in France or the Vatican, but it has an old world grandeur overlooking an iconic Canadian landscape. That's a pretty, quote, spectacular combination. And this was written by Margot Broston. So there's the sunroom there. But here's the main photo of the mansion. And here it is on Google Maps, or I had more photos of it here. Here's another look from outside the mansion, the main house. This is coming from the Vatican website here, nunciature.ca. You see here it's a 2.2 acre estate, which is about 5.4 acres. It's coming from the Vatican website. This, quote, stately structure, that's how they refer to it. And it's 5 acre, 2.2 hectare estate, which can be seen through the carriage entrance down the tree-lined lane, appears to have stood on the site for a long time. End quote. There's some more photos of the Vatican mansion that the Vatican website posts. You can see those there. Let me see, I'll pull some of them up. So you see that they all live like this. Like, these guys live like emperors and kings throughout the world. You see, this is one of the biggest mansions. This is right in the heart of downtown Ottawa too, where Luigi Benassi, the current nuncio to Canada, lives. And this is where the House of the Opposition lives, actually. You see the Opposition House? This is where devout papist Andrew Scheer, who's, quote, running against Jesuit-trained Justin Trudeau, devout Catholic, lives at. It's at 541 Acacia Avenue. It serves as the official residence of the leader of the opposition since 1948. And 541 Acacia Avenue is in the Rockcliffe Park Mansion. You see, the Rockcliffe Mansion is right here where my mouse is. They live right beside each other. You see, because the leader of the, quote, opposition is being told what to do by the Vatican nuncio. That's why they live so close together. Canada is like a Roman corporation, because Canada officially is a corporation of the British Empire. That's why the Governor General is there. And she's a good Catholic, Julie Payette, who actually ran over someone in Maryland in 2011 and completely got away with it. The Catholic police in Maryland obviously let her off the hook. Now she's the Governor General, but the Governor General is like actually in a higher position than the Prime Minister. The Governor General is the Queen's direct representative in Canada, and the Queen can actually suspend Canadian Parliament whenever she wants, because Canada is a corporation of Britain. And if you know the history of Britain, Britain is incorporated of the Vatican. And that's why you see Knights of Malta symbols on like the highway signs here in Canada. Like there's Maltese crosses on all the 401 sign. Like the 400 series highway signs, the OPP has a Maltese cross on their logo. This is because in 1213, the Kingdom of Britain lost its sovereignty to Rome and the Vatican. You can see this in a photo right here. It says the crown resigned to the Pope's legate by King John. Following a dispute between King John and Pope Innocent III regarding John's insistence on his role to elect a new Archbishop of Canterbury, John was excommunicated in 1209, and in 1213, Pope Innocent threatened stronger measures unless John submitted. Papal terms for submission were accepted in the presence of the papal legate in Pandulph in May 1213. In addition, John offered to surrender the kingdom of England to God and the saints of Peter and Paul for a feudal service of 1,000 marks annually, 700 for England, 300 for Ireland. With this submission, let me repeat, with this quote submission, this is the British Empire losing its sovereignty to the Vatican. With this submission, John gained the valuable support of his papal overlord, King John. The British King John gained his valuable support of his papal overlord. Just like Pope Francis is the overlord of Queen Elizabeth II, Elizabeth is a Dame of Malta. She was related to Andrew Bertie, who was the first English Grand Master of the Knights of Malta. Bertie died in like 1990, I think. Okay, so you see here, John gained the valuable support of his papal overlord in the new dispute with the English barons. So you see, this is why like the Catholic Church is so ingrained in Canada. And from day one, like the Catholic Church has gotten public funding for their schools since the British North America Act in 1867, and now it's just like out of control, like with the public funding of all Catholic facilities in Canada. Like their nuncio lives. This is probably the biggest mansion right in downtown Ottawa, where their nuncio is. And here's just the example I showed here in London. So this is the newest high school that was built in London, Ontario, where I went to a public high school. This high school was built in 2013, St. Andre Bessette. And the high school that was built before this, Mother Teresa, was built in 2000. That's also Catholic. You can figure out the name Mother Teresa. And Mother Teresa was a Jesuit-trained charlatan. It was in Christopher Hitchens' book on Mother Teresa. He says that it was a Jesuit who gave Mother Teresa her, quote, vision on wanting to help the world, which really involved extorting millions of dollars from naive Catholics all over. Like, that's all she did. She blessed dictators wherever she went to. You see, your Mother Teresa and St. Thomas Aquinas are the second and third oldest public and Catholic high schools in London, Ontario. So you have the three newest Catholic high schools. In London, Ontario is a big city, probably 400, 500,000 people. Three of the newest, just secondary schools in general, are Catholic. This is all over the country. People have no idea how entrenched the Catholic Church is in Canada. It's just become normalized. Like for instance, here I have an article up here, and you have to it's like an average high school probably has a real estate value of like $15 million. So like the Catholic Church, just in real estate value of their schools in Canada alone, runs into the billions and billions and billions of dollars. Then you add the real estate value of churches. Every single town in the province of Ontario has a Knights of Columbus Lodge. Every single one. It's just like in the United States. And actually, in the video I did on the Catholic Church owning the police, I more focused on the Knights of Columbus influence in the United States, but they're just as entrenched into Canadian society as American society. And here's an article from 2019 from the Peterborough, Ontario Police Service. You see they got their Roman military wreath of conquest right in the logo. Just like the Niagara Police, where I live, has the Roman wreath. They're all serving the Vatican. So your Constable Thomas Whiteway of Peterborough Police, Peterborough, Ontario, Canada Police, recipient of the 2019 Knights of Columbus Police Officer of the Year Award. So the Knights of Columbus have their own Police Officer of the Year Award here in Canada. Look at that. Whoever does the best job protecting our gross, disgusting pedophiles will get this Police Officer of the Year award. I guarantee it. Like that's exactly what happens. The story in the Buffalo News. That story, what came out in the Buffalo News, that's how all police departments work. All police departments never arrest any Catholic priest. And the only time they are arrested is in a case like John Gagan in the Boston Globe, or like there's just so many victims and like there's just nothing, like they have to act. Like they won't act unless they're absolutely forced to, unless there's like 60 to 70 victims who come out and who are crying for the police to do something. They will not act unless they are absolutely forced to. And you see that this is all over. And you can go to every single, like the Knights of Columbus, like where I'm living, there's 2 Knights of Columbus lodges in the St. Catharines, Niagara Falls area. Actually, well, like Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, and Welland, there'd be like 5 Knights of Columbus lodges, probably 4 or 5. 2 immediately near me. This is all over the place. But I just wanted to point this out that like all of their nuncios live in massive mansions, while like the current Pope, the Jesuit Pope Francis, is preaching that we all need to lower our quote carbon footprint and we need to, like do whatever. It's just it's very diabolical. It's double tongue, classic. Like Jesuitism is defined as deception in Webster's 1828 dictionary. So it's very predictable that they're doing this. But here is the article here. I just wanted to go into Catholic real estate values. So this is just between 1971 and 1984. In the province of Ontario, Roman Catholic bishops opened 41 new high schools to complement the existing 57 throughout the province. So by 1984, there was like almost 90 Roman Catholic high schools in the province of Ontario. Each Catholic high school probably being appraised at $15 million just for the real estate value. So look at that. Like I bet if you look from this period, I bet there was only like 10 public high schools opened in the province of Ontario. This is a pretty good article on the Roman Catholic schooling in Ontario. You can get this for free. It's called Roman Catholic Schools in Ontario: Past Struggles, Present Challenges, Future Directions, written by the University of Toronto. I just want to show you here just how much of a current puppet show. Like if you should watch this video of Justin Trudeau giving Pope Francis rare Jesuit texts as a gift. The Globe News, there's a video on the Global News link here. You hear Justin Trudeau when he went to the Vatican after being sworn in as the Prime Minister of the Corporation of Canada. And I don't have the link up here, but Stephen Harper even admitted in an interview that the Prime Minister is sort of like the CEO of Canada. That's a quote. He said the Prime Minister is like the CEO of Canada. Because he is. Canada is a Roman corporation. You see here, Trudeau meets Pope Francis, gives rare Jesuit text as gift. You see, from the Global News, his own words, Trudeau Trudeau gifted the Pope a rare set of Jesuit relations books. And a lot of people don't know the Jesuits were some of the first people to come into Canada. It was the Jesuits who were behind the Louis Riel rebellion in Manitoba in the 1800s. That was all Jesuitism in the Catholic Church. No historians seem to connect Louis Riel in the Métis rebellion to the Catholic Church. That they've owned this land here in Canada since day one. You go on the Canadian Encyclopedia article on the Jesuits, they'll tell you the Jesuits were some of the first people to come into Canada. And the first French explorers like Jacques Cartier was a devout Catholic. French explorer Jacques Cartier. In the Converted Catholic magazine, I had put this on archive.org. Their February 1945 article actually exposes a Catholic Canadian secret society called the Jacques Cartier Society, or the Society of Jacques Cartier. Our current Chief Justice, Richard Wagner, is Jesuit trained and a Catholic, went to the same Jesuit school as Justin Trudeau. And our current Speaker of the House, Jeff Reagan, is Jesuit trained and a devout Catholic. Jeff Reagan, the current Speaker of the House, went to Jesuit St. Xavier University in Nova Scotia. And this is the current Archbishop of Ottawa, who is a Jesuit, Terence Pendergrass, S.J. He reconcentrated Canada to the Virgin Mary in 2017. I have that footage on my channel. And you should all watch the footage of the Marian Congress from 1947, where the Dominion of Canada was actually given over to the Virgin, that being Mary. I'll show you that's even quoted here. But this is quoting from a National Catholic Register article. I link in this article. Current Archbishop of Ottawa says the message of Fatima. Yeah, so he says the reconcentrating of Ottawa, its purpose, besides being celebrating the centenary of the Archdiocese of Ottawa, was to pray for lasting peace in the world, which was the message of Our Lady at Fatima 100 years ago, a message that is needed even more today. So I right here. So according to the Jesuit Terence Pendergrass, S.J., the message of Our Lady of Fatima is needed even more today in Canada, and that's why we have two devout Catholics running against each other. So this is what at the current Chief Justice's swearing-in ceremony, this is what he said. He said that very special greetings to the dozens of students from. This is while he's being sworn in. So you see here he's saying the Honorable Jesuit trained Justin Trudeau, blah 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 blah. This guy went to the same Jesuit school as Justin Trudeau, Richard Wagner. This is what the Chief Justice said, and I'll show you a picture of this guy after, before I end the video. So this was at the current Chief Justice of Canada's swearing-in testimony. It says, very special greetings to the dozens of students from secondary schools on both sides of the Ottawa River, from Conseil de l'École Publique de l'Ontario, le Conseil de l'École Catholique de Centre-East, that's Catholic there, the Commission Scolaire de Portage de Outaouais, the Ottawa Carleton Catholic District School Board, and this is where Andrew Scheer actually worked at, the current Conservative candidate for Prime Minister. He actually worked at a Catholic high school in the Ottawa Carleton District School Board, and the Ottawa Catholic School Board. This is, look here, so the Ottawa Catholic School Board, who are visiting the Supreme Court of Canada for the first time and taking part in the introduction ceremony for the Chief Justice of Canada. You are our future. Look who he's saying that to. He's saying, the Chief Justice is saying this to the Ottawa Catholic School Board. That's a subliminal saying to the Catholics of Canada. You are our future, and your presence is very important to all of us. Welcome. Yeah, right here. This is very telling. The Catholic Judge Wagner is saying to the Catholics that they are the future of Canada. The 1947 Marian Congress actually gave the legal dominion of Canada to the Virgin Mary, aka the Holy See or the Vatican. Quoting from the National Catholic Register article, the crowning act, according to Pope Pius XII of the 1947 Marian Congress, was the concentration of the Dominion of Canada to the Immaculate Heart of Mary on June 22nd, 1947, with concentration prayers read in French and in English by federal cabinet ministers, devout Catholic Louis Saint Laurent, who became Prime Minister, and James J. McCann, devout Catholic. And continuing here, so this is what Pope Pius XII said here. Obtain for the Holy Church of God peace and complete freedom, stay in the rising flood of modern paganism, and kindle in the faithful the love of purity, the practice of Christian virtues, and apostolistic zeal, so that the servants of God may increase in holiness and number. But look at this here. So, but also it says the Kappa Magna, the lawn red gowns worn by the Catholic clergy at the Marian Congress, symbolized, quote, their willingness to shed their blood for the faith, end quote. Bishops and priests came from 46 countries around the world. You know, I have this on my channel. Used to Marian Congress. And, you know, when I went down to Philadelphia to the United Lutheran Seminary for, this is when I also went to Bryn Mawr College to get the Peter J. Doiswick books, which is in the suburbs there. But I scanned in a article from the Converted Catholic magazine from, I think it was 1947, where there's actually mention of the Marian Congress. If you guys just want to see like a bad horror movie, watch this Catholic propaganda film. It was made by this Catholic priest here, who has his own article in the Canadian Encyclopedia, Maurice Prelou. He's a filmmaker. This is the filmmaker of this film covering the Marian Congress. I'm just going to play like a minute of it to just show you, like, this is just, you heard like from the Chief Justice's mouth, like the Catholics are the future of Canada. If this plays, and Cardinal Spellman was here in attendance, as well as Cardinal Mindszenty of Hungary, who was used in like a CIA coup d'etat plot in Hungary in the 50s.
His Eminence, Cardinal McGuigan, Archbishop of Toronto, Papal Legate, accompanies His Excellency the Apostolic Delegate Antonio Bagnoli. There is a clear sky over the dawn of Marian Thursday.
This was a huge ceremony. There was like, I think they said like 150,000 masses were said every day. The Governor General, Viscount Alexander, was here as well. This documentary covers it.
Archbishop Vachon greets the morning as it breaks over the centenary of the Ottawa Diocese. This eve of the Jubilee prepares the pilgrims for the sublime days to come.
Check the comments. Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Cardinals archbishops, and bishops, extraordinary ambassadors of the only truth, have come to celebrate your triumph, O Virgin. They come to lay at your feet the pain over which dominates faith, the misery that is made tolerable by hope, and the sacrifice.
Oh, absolutely. Just seeing it. In terms of America and Canada, the Jesuits control. They have a equally strong vice grip hold on both the United States and Canada. I'd say it's just as strong in Canada as it is in the United States, and obviously Mexico is like the second biggest Catholic country in the world after Brazil, so that the Jesuits dominate Mexico. So I'm thinking possibly with the terms of New World Order, maybe we'll see like now with like the current, especially if the Democrats get in, and the guy who leading this bogus, it is kind of a bogus impeachment hearing, but Jerry Nadler, the head of the House Judiciary Committee, went to Jesuit Fordham University. No one mentions that about Jerry Nadler, that he went to Jesuit Fordham University. So I don't think they're going to succeed at the current Trump impeachment plot. But if the Democrats do get in the next election, you could see it, especially if Trudeau wins. I could definitely see like a North American alliance come together, where Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. could potentially, I think that's been termed the Amero. We'll set up like kind of a European Union over here in North America. I think that's possible. I think that's
authority. Join.
That's one plan. I don't think that's the definitive plan, but I think that's an option the Jesuits have. So I just want to say this part of the documentary. It says the civil authority meets the spiritual authority.
Civil authority joins religious authority, and the splendor of its receptions befits the occasion.
You look at that.
Viscount Alexander, Governor General of Canada, receives...
This is Viscount Alexander, the Governor General of Canada, who's actually... The Governor General of Canada is actually more powerful than the Prime Minister. And there's been many Governor Generals of Canada who have been Jesuit trained. Like George Vanier, for instance, who is Pierre Trudeau's Governor General, was Jesuit trained, and a Knight of Malta. Jules Laguerre, the Governor General. Let me see here. Yeah, he was 21st Governor General. This guy here, Jules Laguerre, had his brother, who is the Archbishop of Montreal. This guy's a devout Catholic. Another Governor General, Jane Soive, devout Catholic. Michel Jean, recent Governor General, devout Catholic. Let me see here. Yeah, Paul-Émile Laguerre. So yeah, the Archbishop of Montreal was the brother of the Governor General of Canada. You telling me the Catholic Church doesn't control Canada? Wow. It's just so in your face. Like the Governor General literally had a brother who is the Archbishop of Montreal. Jules Laguerre being the Governor General. Paul-Émile Laguerre being the Archbishop of Montreal. It's just in your face, like the Vatican, the control they exert. But I just wanted to mention that, like, just the hypocrisy, like, especially with the Pope currently crusading for the worldwide climate agenda. It's really shaming you for having a quote high carbon footprint, for contributing to quote climate change, while like they don't do it. Like they shamelessly condemn you for that while they live in mansions themselves, go on private jets. Just blow cash endlessly, and actually ramp up a carbon footprint using their own language. Like there was a recent Washington Post article that came out about Bishop Michael Bransfield of West Virginia. It's rare that you see a decent Washington Post article, but I reprinted it because it just shows the wealth of the Catholic Church. Where was that here? Give me a second. Yeah, right here. I recommend you guys read this article. A penthouse, limousines, and private jets inside the globe-trotting life of Catholic Bishop Michael Bransfield. So really, it's while they're shaming people for enjoying their life, buying stuff, doing things, going on vacations. Oh, you can't go on vacation because you use gas when you go on vacation. Oh, you should be ashamed of yourself. That's basically the message that they're saying. And while they're doing this, like they're living it up, literally living it up like kings and emperors. Here's the mansion. This is like the biggest mansion in Ottawa, the Rockcliffe Mansion. This is where the leader of the opposition lives in the same neighborhood. This is where the opposition leader lives, devout Catholic Andrew Scheer. This is where the Archbishop lives. So like that's only that's like this big on the map. That's literally like a kilometer apart where the Vatican nuncio lives. So obviously there's gonna be no talk about like the malignant, cancerous influence that the Roman Catholic Church has in Canada during this election cycle. Why? Because both candidates are devout Catholic Jesuit puppets. Both of them. Yeah, but I think that's all for this one, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I should get going, but I just wanted to, if you weren't aware, check out where the Vatican nuncio lives in your country and start look all over the world. You'll see that these guys, live it up. And check out that chapter in Ivor Manhattan's book, Catholic Imperialism and World Freedom, on the Vatican nuncios. It's a good breakdown of what their role is and how they politically serve the church. They serve the church. This is the silver key of the church, the same silver key that's actually on the logo of the National Security Agency. And I expose that fully in this post here. The National Security Agency admits the silver key in its logo represents the Pope's temporal power. And in 2017, the National Security Agency and Homeland Security designated Jesuit Fordham University as a center for excellence in cybersecurity. If you look at that. And if you're not aware, Jesuit Fordham University hosts the annual FBI Cybersecurity Conference. Would you imagine that? Where was that here? Yeah, so FBI New York. Yeah, so Jesuit Fordham University, they've had like 10 of these now. This happens at Jesuit Fordham every single year. Jesuit Fordham, with the FBI, hosts the annual International Conference on Cybersecurity. But yeah, that's all for this one, I think, YouTube. Peace and love, and Namnast. I'll catch you on the next one. Actually, there's one more thing I wanted to, actually, now that I mentioned this. Yeah, there's just this hypocrisy of the Catholic argument for school funding in Canada. Okay, so you see here, so I mentioned how 41 new Catholic high schools that are all worth millions were opened between 1971 and 1984 in the province of Ontario. Throughout this period, the demand for extended equal funding, that's equal, so the Catholics want funding as much as the public schools get funding. And actually, I have an article on my Jesuit World Order blog from the Pittsburgh Catholic from 1961, where Cardinal Spellman was actually protesting that the federal government gives federal funds to public schools. He was actually protesting this. He said, "Oh, it's not fair that public schools get public funding and Catholic schools don't." Literally, Cardinal Spellman was protesting that public schools got public funding. And at a ceremony at Jesuit Fordham University on a Golden Jubilee, Cardinal Spellman honored Nelson Rockefeller's Jesuit-trained Lieutenant Governor Malcolm Wilson for their fight to get public funds for the Catholics. That's on my blog. We see here in 1977, Dr. Henry B. Mayo suggested in his report of the Ottawa Carleton Review Commission, quote, "If a thing is right, it should be done, and the tradition should be broken when a prudential judgment allows, as St. Thomas Aquinas might say." His quote, definitely his biased report encouraged an extension as a means to necessarily both parental and religious rights while appreciating desirable diversity in Ontario schools. So I'm going to show you. So I'm going to show you just the distribution of schools in Ontario. You're going to see how, quote, diverse it is. What a joke. So you got 76 public school boards in Ontario. So that's secular. Okay, but you got 36 public secular boards, including 34 English boards and 4 French boards. So you got 38. So in Ontario, religious schools are known as public separate schools or separate schools. Here you see in Canada, a separate school is a type of school that has constitutional status and 3 provinces and statutory status in 3 territories. So in Ontario, there's 38 religious school boards, out of which 37 of them are Catholic, 29 English Catholic, 8 French Catholic, and 1 English Protestant. 1 Protestant school board to 37 Catholic school boards. 1 to 37. So 1 to 30. So the Catholic Church is in control of 99.7% of all religious schools in the province of Ontario. And Dr. Henry B. Mayo, who wrote the report of the Ottawa Carleton Review, says we're going to create desirable diversity in Ontario schools. So you can see that this was this report was Jesuit controlled ultimately. The whole push for that's why the Jesuits a big reason why they killed John F. Kennedy is because John F. Kennedy said firmly that I do not support unconstitutional federal funding of religious schools. And he was gone pretty quick after saying that. And one of the first things Lyndon Johnson did was federally fund religious schools and religious charities. And Lyndon Johnson went to Jesuit Georgetown. Okay, so it's a thing. Having federal governments finance the Catholic Church is what the Jesuits want, universally throughout the world, and that's a big reason why John F. Kennedy died. And it was the Education and Secondary. What was the name of the act? Public and Secondary Education Act, signed by Lyndon Johnson in 1965. I might be botching that act wrong, but Johnson signed. It was 1965 where Johnson signed this bill to legalize federal funds to the Catholic Church, which is unconstitutional. Okay, but you can see they did the exact same thing in Canada as the U.S. Like, if you go down to the U.S., if you look at the school board distribution, almost all of the religious schools are Catholic schools. But that's just that's just crazy. Out of 38 religious school boards in the province of Ontario, there's only 1 Protestant school board, only 1, and 37 Catholic school boards. There's only are you kidding me? Let me see if I can get the name of the Protestant one here. Yeah, the only Protestant school board, and it's in a tiny town called Pentanganeshi. Here it's the only non-Catholic. It even says it's on its Wikipedia. It's the only non-Catholic separate school in Ontario. Only 1 non-Catholic separate school in Ontario, and it's in a little town of 8,000 people. But yeah, I think that's all for this one, YouTube. Peace and love, and Namnas. I'll catch you on the next one. I gotta go. Peace.